Background: my 53-year-old female, husband, 57-year-old male, and I've been married for 27 years. We're Indian and had an arranged marriage. I'll be honest, my husband and I both agree that past the initial 1 to 2 years of our marriage, it was just a mutual respect and understanding, not really love. We had a baby, our son, now 26 years old male, to appease our families, and that was it. My husband and I grew up in India, but moved to the States when our son was 4 years old, so his upbringing was mostly here. We both raised him how we knew best and thought we did our job in raising a respectful and hardworking man. My son has a very authentic and paradoxical personality. He's egoistic and arrogant, but loving, selfless, and caring at the same time. He's someone who is passionate about weightlifting and martial arts, but enjoys philosophy, photography, and poetry. He paid his own way through school through a combination of the 2 jobs he worked in high school, merit scholarships, and internship salaries. He got a very well-paying job right after graduating and has already received 2 promotions early in his career and has been able to purchase a very nice home and install a pool and home gym, as well as sending my husband and me some money every month. He got married 4 months ago to his girlfriend of 2 years. She is also currently 10 weeks pregnant, and I have a great relationship with her. My husband and I are very proud of our son for who he has become. Incident: my husband and I live in a different state and flew out to visit our son and daughter-in-law over the weekend. I thought it was great, and I was all smiles and a few tears when we left on Sunday night. But my husband looked devastated. It took me 3 days to press him about it, and he finally opened up today about what happened during our visit. On Saturday night, my husband woke up in the middle of the night and randomly looked out the window and saw our son and daughter-in-law kissing in the pool and drinking something out of wine glasses. My husband confronted our son on Sunday morning for 2 reasons. Drinking during pregnancy. Turns out it was just sparkling juice, and making out in the pool. We're from a really conservative culture, and doing any physical affection in public around parents is a no-no. And my husband felt the need to question our son about this, and it led to an argument between the 2 of them where my husband said something along the lines of, "I couldn't even think of doing that around your grandparents. I thought I raised you differently. Didn't I teach you anything?" My son blew up at this and let all his feelings out in about a 10-minute vent. I summarized our son's points below. 1, our son said the only thing he learned was what not to do as a husband and father, and said he would rather unalive himself than be anything like my husband. 2, my husband did often physically discipline him between the ages of 7 and 17. Our son said that he has no happy memories with him, and when someone asks him about his father, all that comes to mind was getting beat in the living room, getting beat in his room, getting beat in the basement. He highlighted 2 incidents that we barely remember where when he was 7 years old, my husband picked him up by his ears for lying about something trivial, and when he was in his freshman year of high school, when my husband beat him right when he woke up before school, since he stayed up extra late working on a passion project the night before. Our son remembers the exact date that this happened. Our son told my husband that when someone does that to you, you make it your goal to not be like that, and he was happy and proud to not have learned anything from him. 3, our son said that my husband was someone who was scared of everything, discouraged everything he wanted, and a hypocrite. He brought up examples like when our son was beginning to have opportunities to play his sport at the college level. My husband's reaction was to tell him that sports would affect his academics. And then when he eventually did leave the team after 2.5 years in college, by his own choice, my husband gave him shoot for it. When our son confided in my husband that he got into a fight at school, my husband's first reaction was to ask if we should go to the police and tell me. Our son, 22 at the time, brought up that when he wanted to visit a religious pilgrimage site alone in a different country, my husband's first reaction was just to shut his idea down completely under the pretense of not being safe. When our son was in his sophomore year of high school, he was selected to travel to Australia for an academic competition that would have cost us around $6,000 total, and we were fully prepared to pay for it all. But when he questioned why we weren't willing to spend that money on long-term athletic training or even a new cell phone for him, despite him asking for the past year, my husband kicked him out of the house for being ungrateful. My husband and I wanted his English to be as good as possible, and so we rarely spoke to him in our native language, but as he grew up, he wanted to learn the language by himself. And my husband always heavily discouraged this. My son asked my husband, What kind of father doesn't pass along his own mother tongue to his child and discourages this? When our son started an online business as a senior year college student, my husband was again very against it because he didn't like the idea. Almost forgot. Our son did end up playing his sport in college for 3 seasons. He did buy a new cell phone with the money he made working as a tutor in high school. He did go on the religious pilgrimage himself. He learned our native language by himself and is now completely fluent. He did run the online business. Nothing my husband said stopped my son from doing what he wanted to do. 4. Our son said that any time he expressed his true thoughts, my husband would simply be there to make sure to disagree and discourage whatever it is he wanted. Our son told my husband that he feels forced to lie and hide the truth about everything in fear of judgment, and he feels caged whenever he talks to him. He referred to my husband as the anti-role model. 5. Our son barely touched on the incident at hand and just told my husband to not bother coming to their place if he has an issue with him loving his wife. The fact is that every event our son said is factually correct. My husband and I always saw it, that he was learning a lesson for the future, and my husband just wanted him to go the safe route and not put himself in any kind of harm's way that could affect his future. I never knew that some of these things bothered our son so much. Truly, I hope that our son's relationship with his wife is infinitely better than mine and my husband's. So I really don't care about them kissing in their own pool, in their own backyard at night. I'm surprised that my husband did, but that is not my concern right now. I care that our son hates his father, and the fact that he said he has no happy memories of them breaks my heart for him. Looking back, I definitely could have stepped in when my husband was being the tough love dad, and things might be better right now if I had. My husband admits that he went overboard on several occasions, and is telling me that he regrets many things he did as a father, and would do anything for a do-over. For now, I'm planning on ensuring that there is zero contact between my husband and son, but I don't know the plan for the future. How can I help patch things up between my son and husband, even a little? I know this can never go back to 100%, but I'll do anything for them to even be friendly. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My son has a very authentic and paradoxical personality. He is egoistic and arrogant, but loving, selfless, and caring at the same time. I read this line early in your post and waited through the rest of the post for some evidence of your son being egoistic or arrogant. I never saw it. That makes me think that by egoistic, you mean capable of thinking for himself, and by arrogant, you mean resistant to your control. It sounds like your son made a successful life for himself despite your parenting and the fact that he's not only willing to allow you into his life, but that he also supports you financially is nothing short of a miracle. You and your husband should think twice before ever criticizing your son again. It should be the goal of every parent to raise a child who can grow to be a better person than them. And it sounds like that already happened a long time ago. Comment 2. When he was 7 years old, my husband picked him up by his ears for lying about something trivial. And when he was in his freshman year of high school, my husband beat him right when he woke up. My husband just wanted him to go the safe route and not put himself in any kind of harm's way. These two things don't seem to go together, do they? Here's the thing. You and your husband can only remember a handful of times when your husband abused your son, but I can guarantee that your son remembers every single one. The tree remembers, but the axe forgets. You and your husband need to sincerely apologize for harassing your son and making his childhood one of incessant put-downs. And you need to actually realize that what you did was abuse, or you're never going to see your grandchild. Now, for the update. Thank you for all the comments from the last post. After the confrontation, things have been tense. My husband and I returned home, but the atmosphere was heavy. My husband has been unusually quiet, spending most of his time in his study. I think he's processing everything our son said. I, on the other hand, have been trying to figure out how to mend this broken relationship. I decided to call my son to check in on him and his wife. I wanted to make sure they were okay after the argument. My son was polite but distant, and I could tell he was still upset. He assured me that they were fine, but didn't want to talk about what happened. The next day, I received a call from my daughter-in-law. She was concerned about the stress the argument had caused and how it might affect her pregnancy. She mentioned that my son had been more withdrawn and irritable since the incident. She asked if there was anything I could do to help ease the tension. I felt helpless, but promised her I would try to find a way to make things better. That evening, I sat down with my husband to discuss what we could do. He admitted that he had been too harsh on our son and regretted many of his actions. He said he wanted to apologize but didn't know how to approach our son without making things worse. I suggested writing a letter to our son, explaining his feelings and apologizing for the past. My husband agreed, and we spent the next few hours drafting the letter together. It was a difficult process, but I could see that my husband was sincere in his desire to make amends. We sent the letter the following day, hoping it would be a step towards healing. A few days later, my son called me. He said he received the letter and appreciated the effort, but he wasn't ready to forgive his father just yet. He needed time to process everything and figure out how he felt. I understood and told him that we would give him all the time he needed. In the meantime, I started reflecting on my own role in all of this. I realized that I had been too passive, allowing my husband to take the lead in parenting and not stepping in when I should have. I decided to reach out to a therapist to help me navigate my feelings and find ways to support my son and husband. The therapist suggested that I work on building a stronger relationship with my son, independent of my husband. She also recommended that my husband seek therapy to address his own issues and learn how to communicate better with our son. I took the therapist's advice and started calling my son more often just to chat and catch up on his life. I made an effort to show genuine interest in his hobbies and passions, asking him about his photography projects and his progress in martial arts. Slowly, our conversations became more relaxed, and I could sense that my son was beginning to open up to me. During one of our conversations, my son shared a memory from his childhood that I had almost forgotten. He talked about a time when he was around 10 years old, and we had gone on a family trip to the beach. He remembered how much fun he had building sandcastles with me, and how we had laughed together as the waves washed them away. It was a rare moment of happiness in his otherwise tumultuous relationship with his father. Hearing this made me realize that there were still some positive memories we could build on. As my husband continued his therapy, he began to understand the impact of his actions on our son. He started making small changes in his behavior, like being more patient and listening more attentively when we talked. He also began to open up to me about his own upbringing and the pressures he faced growing up in a conservative family. He admitted that he had been trying to protect our son from the same hardships he had experienced, but realized now that his methods had been misguided. One evening, my husband and I were sitting in the living room, and he shared a story from his childhood that I had never heard before. He talked about how his father had been strict and demanding, always pushing him to excel in academics and never showing any affection. He recounted a particularly painful memory of being scolded and punished for not scoring high enough on a test. It was clear that my husband had been carrying this emotional baggage for years, and it had influenced his parenting style. Hearing this story gave me a new perspective on my husband's actions. I realized that he had been repeating the same patterns he had experienced as a child, not out of malice, but because he didn't know any other way. This understanding made me more empathetic towards him, and I hoped that our son could eventually see this side of his father as well. As the weeks went by, my husband and I continued to work on our relationship with our son. We made a conscious effort to be more supportive and understanding, and slowly, the tension began to ease. My son started to see the changes in his father and acknowledged the effort he was making. While he wasn't ready to fully forgive him, he agreed to have a conversation with him, with me present as a mediator. The conversation was emotional and difficult, but it was a crucial step towards healing. My husband apologized sincerely, and my son expressed his feelings openly. They both agreed to work on rebuilding their relationship, one step at a time. It was a small victory, but it gave me hope that things could get better. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for refusing to attend my sister-in-law's wedding after she tried to manipulate us with my mother-in-law's illness? Great news! I'm going to be a mom to a baby boy. I like the names Lestat and Beau, and my fiance likes Theodore and Gustav. I have to admit, I'm really loving Theodore too. I want to thank you all and clarify a few things. Thanks for the advice. Some of it hurt when I first posted, but all of it was helpful in some way. First off, I'm not a spoiled and childish girl forcing my will on my husband. His sister has always had problems with me, not with him. So I thought it was something I had to handle. But as you all said, she's his sister, and they need to deal with it or not. And yes, I'm an extremely anxious person who's been in therapy for years. I suffered abuse from my mother. My only family growing up was my dad. When my dad finally returned to his hometown, and we could have a family beyond the two of us, I was sexually attacked by someone trusted by that family. I've been working on this for a long time, but many may not understand how much this has impacted my pregnancy and choices lately. It feels like the problem is me, that I don't deserve love and family, and I'm so scared my son will have a similar experience that I can't stop thinking about it. But as many of you said, my family now is me, my baby, and my husband. I also have my dad, stepmom, grandparents, little brother, brother-in-law, and friends by my side. Now for an update. The night I posted, I talked to my husband. He came home late from a shift and then went out drinking with his brother. I apologized for meddling in his relationship with his sister, for thinking I knew her better than he did, and for causing unnecessary conflict. I also apologized for putting the fantasy of a big happy family above his feelings. I was shocked by his reaction because he cried, and he's usually very stoic. He apologized for saying he was tired of me and said it wasn't true at all, but it's hard to see the person you love most putting themselves in a position that hurts them just to please someone extremely narcissistic. We apologized and spent the rest of the night talking. I asked if he needed a break from me because many of you said he should leave me, and he said that never crossed his mind, which was a huge relief. I had already imagined packing up to go to my parents' house. We decided to politely decline the invitation, but my fiancé took a day off to handle the situation with his family. I didn't go because it's too stressful, and I'm still in the early stages of pregnancy with 5-6 months to go. So what came out of the family talk? My mother-in-law was the one behind the invitation. She told my fiancé that she wouldn't attend the wedding or pay for it if the whole family wasn't there, and that sister-in-law should face the consequences of her actions. Sister-in-law could afford the wedding herself, but it would be a huge hit to her savings because it's going to be exorbitantly expensive. And having their mom not show up would be bad because sister-in-law is a vice president at her parents' company and many big contracts will be at the wedding. She needs to keep up appearances. So, sister-in-law thought inviting me as a bridesmaid and writing a heartfelt note would soften me up. And yes, my fiancé's ex would be her maid of honor. And my fiancé wasn't asked to be a groomsman because the ex didn't want to see him with me. He would have been invited as a regular guest. So, mother-in-law is no longer paying for the wedding, but she will attend. My fiancé, brother-in-law, and his fiancé and I will not go to the wedding. Now I'm getting messages from unknown numbers calling me petty because sister-in-law was going to honor me at her wedding and I ruined her dream wedding. It's funny because it's a 36-year-old woman fighting with me because she wanted my fiancé to marry her best friend. She can't get over a divorce that's not even hers. Good luck to her fiancé. I think I've realized she'll never directly attack her brother because of their mom, so she hurts me to get to him. Some other things have come up, and we're going to try to distance ourselves more from her, especially with the baby on the way, because brother-in-law said she has fertility issues and had a mental breakdown when she found out we were expecting. He said sister-in-law seems to be jealous that we got pregnant so soon into our relationship. She had dreams of giving the first grandchild to the family since she's the oldest. Who knew a surprise baby could cause so much chaos? Thanks to everyone for listening and sharing your experiences. See you. Almost forgot. Okay, no baby called Lestat, you won. I sent a message to husband about giving up on the name. He is the happiest man right now. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, no Lestat. But I am glad to read the update. Happy for you. Also, I think the people who told you that your husband should leave you are bonkers. I'm glad everything has been dealt with. Block the number and tell your husband about them each time. Forget your sister-in-law. Comment 2, Lestat, girl. You are creating so much unnecessary friction for your kid with that name. In other news, I'm very happy you and your fiancé talked it out. All the best for you, him, and your baby, whose name is definitely not Lestat Lul. Now for the update. Thank you all for your comments and support from my last post. So, a lot has happened over the past few days. After my husband and I had that long talk, we decided to take a step back from his family drama and focus on us and our baby. But things took an unexpected turn when my husband received a call from his mother. She wanted to meet us for lunch to discuss something important. I was hesitant, but my husband convinced me it might be a good idea to hear her out. At lunch, my mother-in-law dropped a shocker. She revealed that she had been diagnosed with a serious illness and didn't have much time left. She said she wanted to make amends and ensure the family was united before she passed. This news hit us hard, especially my husband. He was visibly shaken and didn't know how to process it. I felt a mix of emotions, sadness for her, but also anger that she was using this to manipulate us into attending the wedding. My mother-in-law then confessed that the real reason she wanted us at the wedding was because she feared it might be her last chance to see the whole family together. She apologized for her previous actions and begged us to reconsider. My husband was torn. On one hand, he wanted to support his mother during her difficult time, but on the other hand, he didn't want to subject me to more stress and drama. After the lunch, my husband and I had another long talk. He was struggling with the decision and felt guilty for even considering going to the wedding. I could see the pain in his eyes, and it broke my heart. I told him that I would support whatever decision he made, but deep down I was terrified of facing his sister and the potential fallout. The next day, my husband decided to visit his mother alone to get more clarity on her condition and intentions. When he returned, he looked more conflicted than ever. He told me that his mother had shown him medical reports confirming her illness, but he couldn't shake the feeling that she was still trying to manipulate the situation. He also mentioned that his sister had been there and had a complete meltdown when she saw him. She accused him of abandoning the family and ruining her wedding. My husband was at his wit's end and didn't know how to handle the situation. Meanwhile, I started receiving more messages from unknown numbers, accusing me of being selfish and heartless. It was overwhelming, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of negativity. I confided in my therapist, who advised me to focus on my well-being and the baby. She reminded me that I couldn't control other people's actions, but I could control how I responded to them. As the days went by, my husband and I tried to find a middle ground. We considered attending the wedding for a short while, and then leaving early to avoid any drama. But the more we discussed it, the more we realized that it wouldn't solve anything. The underlying issues with his sister and mother would still be there, and attending the wedding would only be a temporary fix. Then something unexpected happened. My brother-in-law, who had been relatively quiet throughout this ordeal, reached out to us. He wanted to meet and discuss a potential solution. When we met, he revealed that he had been in contact with a family mediator who specialized in resolving conflicts. He suggested that we all attend a mediation session to address the issues and find a way to move forward. My husband and I were skeptical at first, but we agreed to give it a try. The mediation session was intense and emotionally draining. My mother-in-law admitted to her manipulative behavior and apologized to everyone. My sister-in-law, however, was less forthcoming. She continued to blame me for everything and refused to take any responsibility for her actions. The mediator suggested that we take a break and reconvene in a week. During that time, my husband and I decided to focus on our relationship and the baby. We went for long walks, talked about our hopes and fears, and tried to find some semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. As the week went by, I started to see a change in my husband. He became more protective of me and the baby, and he began to set boundaries with his family. He told his mother and sister that while he loved them, he couldn't allow their drama to affect our lives anymore. It was a difficult conversation, but it was necessary for our well-being. When we reconvened for the mediation session, my sister-in-law was still resistant, but my mother-in-law seemed more genuine in her desire to make amends. She promised to respect our boundaries and focus on her health. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, stormed out of the session, refusing to participate any further. In the end, we decided not to attend the wedding. It was a tough decision, but it was the right one for us. My husband and I are now focusing on our future and preparing for the arrival of our baby boy. We've decided to name him Theodore, a name that we both love and that symbolizes a fresh start for our family. Thank you all for your support and advice. It means the world to us. Am I the idiot for exposing my dad's affair and tearing my family apart? 3 days ago, I was in the bathroom and my father's phone was sitting on the bathroom counter. My dad is a pilot for a major airline, and I always knew about the high rate of cheaters and divorces among airline pilots. Plus, my parents didn't have the happiest marriage, mainly because my dad is an alcoholic and my mom is a workaholic. I think that may be why I decided to check his messages. He had started a new conversation with this woman, Mary, 45 years old. I thought it was strange that he asked her to keep him company in Dallas. He was leaving for a week-long training that day, and that there were no messages before that. I went into his deleted messages and saw that there were 51 deleted messages between him and Mary. After recovering them, I only had to read a few before the truth of it all hit me. My heart was beating so hard and my hands were shaking. I knew I had to get evidence. but my time was short. I could hear him moving around in the hall. I took photos of a few of the messages, wrote her phone number in my notes app, and then marked the messages unread and left the bathroom. I immediately called my mom, she was at work, to meet up for lunch. All the while, a million thoughts were running through my head. Should I confront my dad? Should I give him an ultimatum? Does my mom already know he is cheating? Should I call Mary and confront her? I will admit I typed her number into my phone but decided otherwise. I had so many options in that moment, but I felt that it was only right to let my mom decide for herself how to handle this since she is the one most affected here. My mom and I had barely been seated when I blurted out the truth. Safe to say she was shocked and felt betrayed. She spent the rest of lunch stalking Mary. Turns out it has been a 3-year-long affair. Mary is a flight attendant at the same company and lives where we grew up, and she is married and has a few children. There were lots of tears, especially when Mom confirmed that she would definitely be getting a divorce. I knew that would probably happen, but I couldn't help but feel I was the cause of a 17-year-long marriage being ruined. Plus, my brother is 4 years younger than me, and if they get divorced, it will affect him more than anyone else. I at least can go off to college and ignore what is going on at home, but my brother has to live there for another 3 years. If I had just kept my curiosity to myself, then everything would have stayed normal. This feeling has been festering for a few days. It only got worse when my mom confronted my dad and let it spill that I was the one that found the text messages. Now he is texting me, "You could have had a conversation with me first," and "Why would you go to Mom? I could have explained." And worse, "Now I know you're on your mom's side. Careful what you choose." I feel terrible. My dad and I have always been really close and had a great relationship. He is a terrible husband, but a great dad. And I feel like I betrayed him and ruined our family by being too nosy. What could I have done differently? What should I say to my dad? To add, I broke Rule 3 because of a moral question, so I'll change my question. Also to answer some questions. We have reached out to the affair partner's husband on Facebook Messenger, but he hasn't replied. Mom is considering finding his number. Yes, I said alcoholic airline pilot. Unfortunately, pilots are people too with people problems. They do have rules that state no alcohol 8 hours before the flight, so Dad follows that. Also, he only flies about 11 days a month, so there is lots of time at home to drink. I will not be stating the airline. I know the affair partner's age from Instagram, Facebook, using first and last name and assumption that she was working at the same company as my dad. From there, it was easy. Length of affair is from phone records. This is not fake or AI generated. I'm just a masterful writer and amazing storyteller. I frequently journal, so writing my feelings is a habit and something I've gotten quite good at. Now for an update. Last night, Dad was texting my mom that I will have to find my own way to pay for college and I will be taken off the flight benefits. This means I can't go to my family reunion this weekend and see my long-distance boyfriend. He is only punishing me and Mom, not my brother. I'm going to call Grandma, his mom, and get his butt kicked. He is still blaming me and, worse, blaming Mom. He is saying that Mom is to blame because she isn't comforting or loving enough. He keeps switching between begging for forgiveness from her, spitting Bible verses, and gaslighting and belittling her. For the blaming me part, last night he said I was the beginning and end of the relationship. They married a year after having me. That hurt. This morning he just said, "I love you, just angry, sorry." Which is hilarious because I should be angry, not you. I texted back, "You are projecting your anger onto me and just hurting me further. You already betrayed and lied to me and the family. Your messages are hurtful, and you can blame me all you want for your actions. But that will do nothing but destroy the relationship we spent years building. I don't want Grandpa to be the one walking me down the aisle. But at this rate, I can't have someone as toxic as you in my life. You have a lot of self-reflecting and healing to do, but you don't need to hurt others in the process. I'm disappointed in you, Dad. Thank you, Reddit, for your advice and helping me find the words to respond to him. Any other advice on how to act around the family next weekend, because I will be there whether or not my dad pays for my flight, is welcome, or just advice in general on how to talk with my dad. I will try and update again after he comes home, or maybe after the reunion because it'll be awkward. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have nothing to feel guilty about. Your dad is the one who should be ashamed of himself. The fact that he's trying to blame you for his behavior is disgusting and should show you exactly what kind of man he truly is. For the first time in your life, you're seeing the real him. He's not a good husband or father. A good father wouldn't do what he's doing and say the things he's saying to you. Don't take it. Don't cower and let him manipulate you and lie like he's been doing to your mom and your family for years. Stand up to him and tell him he created this mess, he destroyed his family, he played games with all of you. It's his responsibility for everything that's happening, and he will not be permitted to speak to you that way. Comment 2. I'm so sorry to say he is not a good husband, father, or man. He did this and doesn't even feel bad to the point that he's trying to act like it's somehow your fault. I'm so happy for your mom that she isn't stuck being with someone like that. Consider that you saved your mom a lot of time and heartache. Maybe if you hadn't said it, 10 years would have gone by, and it could have been so much worse. What a jerk to do this at all. But then to put you in the position now of trying to make you feel responsible in any way for his unacceptable actions. I'm disgusted and so sorry. Now, for the update. Thank you for all the support and advice from my last post. 3 months have passed since I found those messages on my dad's phone, and things have been pretty tough. After my dad's initial outburst and threats, things got even more complicated. My mom filed for divorce, and my dad moved out to stay with a friend. My brother and I have been trying to adjust to this new reality, but it's been tough. My dad's behavior has been erratic. One moment he's apologizing, and the next he's blaming everyone but himself. A few weeks after he moved out, my dad showed up at my school unannounced. He wanted to talk, but I was in the middle of a class. He waited until I was done, and we had a tense conversation in the parking lot. He was still angry and hurt, but he also seemed lost. He kept saying he didn't know how to fix things and that he missed us. I told him that he needed to take responsibility for his actions and that blaming me or mom wasn't going to help. He left looking defeated, and I felt a mix of sadness and relief. Meanwhile, my mom has been trying to keep things as normal as possible for my brother and me. She's been working extra hours to make sure we have everything we need, but I can see the toll it's taking on her. She's exhausted and stressed, but she's also determined to move forward. She's been seeing a therapist, which has helped her a lot. She's also been encouraging me to talk to someone, but I haven't felt ready yet. One of the hardest parts has been dealing with my dad's family. My grandma, who I thought would be on my side, has been surprisingly supportive of my dad. She keeps saying that everyone makes mistakes and that we should forgive him. It's been frustrating because it feels like she's not acknowledging the pain he's caused. My uncle, on the other hand, has been more understanding. He told me that he's disappointed in my dad and that he hopes he can get his act together. The family reunion was awkward, to say the least. My dad didn't show up, which was a relief, but it also felt strange not having him there. My long-distance boyfriend was there, and he was a great support. We talked a lot about everything that's been happening, and he helped me see that I did the right thing by telling my mom. He reminded me that my dad's actions were his own, and that I couldn't control what he did. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, my boyfriend and I sat outside and talked about the future. He asked me if I still wanted to go to college. Given everything that's happened, I told him that I did, but I was worried about how to pay for it. He suggested looking into scholarships and financial aid, and he even offered to help me with the applications. It was a comforting conversation, and it made me feel a little more hopeful about the future. Back at home, things took another turn when my dad showed up drunk one night. He was belligerent and started yelling at my mom. My brother and I were in our rooms, but we could hear everything. My mom called the police, and they came and took him away. It was a terrifying experience, and it made me realize just how serious his drinking problem is. My mom got a restraining order against him, and he's not allowed to come near us or the house. In the aftermath of that night, my mom and I had a long talk. She told me more about her relationship with my dad and how things had been difficult for a long time. She admitted that she had stayed with him for our sake, hoping that things would get better. It was a heartbreaking conversation, but it also brought us closer. I realized that my mom had been carrying a lot of pain and that she had done her best to protect us. As for Mary, the woman my dad was having an affair with, we found out that her husband had left her. He took their kids and moved out of state. My mom and I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness for her children. It was a reminder that infidelity doesn't just hurt the people directly involved. It has a ripple effect that impacts everyone around them. In the midst of all this chaos, I've been trying to focus on school and my future. I've been working part-time to save up for college, and I've applied for several scholarships. My boyfriend has been a constant support, and we've been talking about our plans for the future. It's been a challenging time, but it's also made me realize how strong I am and how much I can handle. Looking back, I can see that finding those messages on my dad's phone was a turning point. It forced me to confront some harsh realities and make difficult choices. It hasn't been easy, but I believe that we're all better off for it. My mom is starting to find her footing, my brother is adjusting, and I'm looking forward to a future that, while uncertain, is full of possibilities. Thank you for reading and for all the support. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!